The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink it and criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
All right, good day, Tokens and Tokettes. Welcome. It is Thursday, July 11th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Hope y'all recovered from 710 yesterday. I know we have, and we're ready for a brand new show. All sorts of great information for you. Although this will be our last show of the week because we're taking off to Denver to cover the 710 Cup, flying away later this evening. So we'll see all you good folks in Denver. Sam Chapman and I are actually flying out on the same flight, so I have plenty to talk about, I'm sure. And we can't wait to meet all of our good friends in Denver there at the 710 Cup. Also, on today's show, though, we've got all sorts of information to bring to you, including our interview at 5:30 with Finn Sealander, a retired DEA agent. That's right, we got the man on the show today. We'll ask him about being a DEA agent and why he now says we should just legalize not just marijuana, but all drugs in our Cops Say Legalize Drugs segment. Also on today's program, we've got time for a radical rant. At the end of the show, I'm going to take aim at two politicians who I think are trying to have it both ways on the marijuana issue. That would be Senator Rand Paul, the son of the very popular Ron Paul on the libertarian side, Rand Paul out in Kentucky, and former Mexican President Vicente Fox, who seems pretty eager to jump on the marijuana money bandwagon. Stay tuned. I'll tell you how he's kind of talking out both sides of his mouth if we look back at his history as president of Mexico. Also on today's show, we're going to go behind the headlines once again on the George Zimmerman trial in the murder of Trayvon Martin. The defense rested today in that trial. And, we've been bringing you the ongoing drama as to whether or not Trayvon's marijuana use would be entered into the evidence or not. Would it be or would it not be? Well, it wasn't. And George Zimmerman was pretty shocked about that. We've got an amazing video from CNN to play for you from the trial where he asked the very pertinent question. And before we get to all of that, we have got our 420 radio news. We'll bring you all the latest headlines from the world of marijuana, including some drug testing headlines from Utah and North Carolina. And for our Groovin' Thursday Daily Toker Tunes, we're going to keep it local with J-Mac and Big Dub, their tune Mary Jane, coming up at 20 after for you to get your smoke on. Hey, it's going to be a great show. Thanks for being with us and working with us throughout all the technical difficulties. We don't know what's up with Ustream right now, but we'll get to working on it. See you in a minute.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
This is your 420 Radio News for Thursday, July 11th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Prince of Pot Marc Emery gets approval for transfer to Canadian prison. From the Vancouver Sun. Vancouver's Prince of Pot, Marc Emery, has been approved for transfer from federal prison in the U.S., where he has been serving time since 2010. On July 9th, the U.S. Department of Justice determined the pot activist can spend the rest of his 5-year sentence in Canada. His Canadian lawyer, Kirk Tusaw, obtained a copy of the decision, which was also sent to the Federal Public Safety Department for approval. Tusaw said Wednesday, quote, I can confirm the U.S. side has approved Marc's transfer. The next step is to have the Minister of Public Safety here in Canada, whomever that is, approve the transfer from the Canadian side, end quote. In 2010, Emery was sentenced for selling marijuana seeds through his Vancouver-based catalog company and is housed at a medium-security prison in Yazoo City, Mississippi. Emery used the proceeds from the seed sales to fund drug reform lobbying, political parties, and other pot activism, and is the leader of the British Columbia Marijuana Party. Marijuana Farmers Market proposed for Boulder, from the Boulder Daily Camera. Justin Hartfield, CEO of Weed Maps and managing partner of Ghost Group, a marijuana venture capital group, sees the potential for a new venture offering vendors better access to consumers and consumers a higher level of choice. He said the Boulder Farmers Market is a model for similar institutions around the country, and an organic cannabis farmers market would build on that tradition. City and state officials, as well as industry observers, said state and local law would make it difficult to move forward with the farmers market. Boulder attorney Jeff Gard, who represents many marijuana businesses, was blunt. Quote, there's not going to be a farmers market, he said. You're not going to be able to buy weed off the street. That's drug dealing. They've made a very clear distinction in state law, end quote. David Driscoll, Boulder's executive director of community planning, said city zoning doesn't allow any commercial activity on agricultural land except sales of produce grown on that land. He said of a farmer's market in an agricultural zone, quote, it's not even allowed for food, let alone for recreational marijuana, end quote. Boulder Mayor Matt Applebaum said he doesn't want to rule anything out, but it's hard for him to imagine a farmer's market working. But Sean Coleman, a consultant who works with the marijuana industry, said the interest in this and other proposals that fall outside the current legal regime show that public sentiment is shifting. Quote, I think these concepts will need for the public at large and lawmakers at the state and local level to catch up to the wisdom of the voters before they can come into effect, end quote. D.C. school system isn't conducting random drug tests required by law, from the Washington Post. 9 years after a district law mandated that public employees who work with children or hold safety-sensitive positions submit to random drug testing, the D.C. public school system has yet to heed it. The D.C. Office of Inspector General condemned the lack of a testing program in a report issued last month that said the school system had not tested any of more than 8,200 employees subject to the law. The school system will begin random testing in the fall, according to an email from spokeswoman Melissa Salmanowitz. A 2010 policy drafted after the drug testing law was adopted in 2004 makes clear the city agencies are expected to conduct random tests covering every employee who works with children. Tests show few Utah welfare applicants use drugs, from NECN.com. Since Utah's new law requiring drug screening for welfare applicants went into effect last August, the state has spent more than $26,000 looking for drug users among 4,400 applicants. Of those applicants, about 400 were identified after taking a written test as having a reasonable likelihood that they were using drugs. Drug tests performed on those 400 people found only 9 who test positive, according to data from the Department of Workforce Services, which administers and benefits the tests. Utah is one of at least 8 states that have passed legislation requiring testing or screening for public assistance applicants, and similar laws have been proposed in at least 29 states this year, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. Colorado celebrated July 4th with a hemp flag flown over the U.S. Capitol from Denver westward. The nation thanked Colorado for pushing the limits on cannabis law over the past few years, even if the nation didn't know it was doing so, by flying a flag made of hemp over the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. on July 4th. The flag was made from hemp fiber purchased in Manitou Springs, Alberta, and then printed and sewn in Denver. Representative Jared Polis, a Boulder Democrat, had brandished the same flag during debate on an amendment that would allow universities to study hemp. This has been your 420 Radio News for Thursday, July 11th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines at the George Zimmerman trial in Florida, where George Zimmerman asks the important question, where's the marijuana? You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja John, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant, high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let them bring in the beat.
I'm Derek Pedro. I am a medical marijuana user and grower in Ontario, Hamilton, Canada. What you see here is basically one of my locations. That is a greenhouse facility. We actually consult for $30 an ounce here. We're basically providing medicine with natural light at about 30 cents a gram here at this facility. This is 4 people's medicine for about 6 to 8 months worth for them. Again, no pesticides here. We just simply put unaffected plants in, making sure they're healthy. You can check out our website at mmar.ca. We are currently full. We're fighting the government. They're trying to take this away from us. Taking away our right to grow for personal production, as you see here, and basically now is going to commercial growers at a projected $8 a gram. So a lot of these people will not be able to afford their medicine a year from now.
Jive, Mary, Grifo, grass, hay. Technically, it's cannabis sativa, the common name, marijuana. She has found a crutch to see her through her difficulties instead of facing up to them and coping with them. And in time, she may be ready to try something different, something better.
Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
All right, welcome back. Time for us to go behind the headlines, and we're going to bring up some video that we have from CNN. But before we get to it, I'll tell you a little bit about the background on this. I mean, after all of this courtroom haggling as to whether or not Trayvon Martin's marijuana toxicology report would be admitted into evidence or would not be admitted into evidence in the second-degree murder trial of George Zimmerman, the defense attorneys for Zimmerman that argued so hard for the right to introduce that evidence closed their case today without introducing the evidence. Now, perhaps Zimmerman's attorneys felt that trying to caricature the dead teenager as some sort of violent menace to society because he smoked marijuana would be a little hard to swallow. I mean, the judge would have to pound the gavel. Order in this courtroom, because the whole place would be overcome by giggles from anyone who'd ever smoked the herb, anyone who's ever seen anyone smoke the herb, anyone who's heard Afro Man's Because I Got High. I mean, it's a ludicrous proposal. So then also, if we brought that up, if we brought up Trayvon's marijuana use, as I went off on the other day, we might also have to bring up George Zimmerman's Adderall and temazepam use, drugs that have side effects like aggression, hostility, and impaired judgment. But nobody was more shocked by the defense's failure to portray Trayvon Martin as a dope-smoking thug than George Zimmerman himself. As the judge hears the conclusion of Zimmerman's defense, she asks if Zimmerman had any other witnesses to testify on his behalf. The confused Zimmerman says he does not, and the trial goes to recess, with just one last appearance to determine if Zimmerman himself will take the stand, and he later decided he would not. But at the very end, after the judge goes to recess, before the microphones are cut, you can hear Zimmerman ask his defense attorneys, "Where's the marijuana?" I'll play it for you so you can hear for yourself. This is from Mediaite.com.
Listen to the judge.
Any other witnesses that you wanted your attorneys to call on your behalf, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
For this hearing?
For this trial.
Trial.
You've been here through the trial, and we've had, we've had 40 witnesses that were called by the state and 19 witnesses called by the defense. Some of them were called, I'm sorry, I'm talking to Mr. Zimmerman. Okay, some of them were called a couple of times, such as Ms. Singleton, so it's really less than 19. My question to you is, Mr. Zimmerman, were there any other witnesses that you wanted your attorneys to call on your behalf at this trial?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. When we get finished with the recess, I'm going to ask you about whether or not you're going to testify.
Yes,
so take the time you need to talk to your lawyers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Court will be in recess.
Where's the marijuana?
There it is.
George Zimmerman looks a little bit bewildered.
Barely hear
Take
that.
the time you need to talk to your lawyers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Court will be in recess.
Where's the marijuana?
George Zimmerman.
Where's the marijuana indeed? So I'm old enough to remember back in the day, the old Where's the Beef commercial. The Wendy's Burger campaign with the elderly Clara Peller. You remember Clara Peller? I remember Clara Peller. So much for you people that say marijuana makes you forget things. I remember Clara Peller. Anyway, there's the whole Where's the Beef campaign. You know, now that I've thought of it, I'm sure there's already somebody putting together a profile of George Zimmerman and a little cartoon balloon saying, "Where's the marijuana?" And it'll probably end up on a t-shirt that I'll see 5 weeks from now at Hempfest. I wear an XL, by the way. Hint, hint. Yeah, very nice. All right, so where's the marijuana? Have we reached a point now with Zimmerman's attorneys refusing to bring up the marijuana issue? Have we reached a point where trying to use marijuana as a form of character assassination is more likely to backfire? Could the jury be more likely to empathize with Trayvon Martin, knowing that it's likely that they've smoked pot, or one of their kids smokes pot, or one of their kids' friends smoke pot? Well, we'll have to see. But this case looks to me like these defense attorneys thought it was a really bad idea to try to lay the case on whether or not Trayvon Martin had used marijuana. I believe they found it to be as irrelevant as we find it to be irrelevant, or possibly harmful to their case, especially their credibility. as the prosecution to be able to bring up experts to testify how marijuana tends to lead people away from aggression and away from violence. And once you've opened up the door to the use of drugs, who was using what drugs, then we start to introduce whether or not the temazepam and Adderall that had been in George Zimmerman's system may have led him to any of the actions that he took on that fateful night when Trayvon Martin was shot. The trial is reaching its close. We shall soon know the verdict. The latest development on this has been that the jury is allowed to consider manslaughter charges and third-degree charges, I believe it was, with the state trying to get some sort of prosecution to stick in this case. We will keep you posted as it unfolds. And I got a troll on the Weed Blog who's debating me. He says I'm a political anti-gun hack, and what else? Bunch of stuff. Check it out on the Weed Blog.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit MarijuanaIsSafer.com.
Funky Roller Ring.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening, Groovy Cats? This is your Funk Master of Ceremonies, Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, right here at the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Your home of soul, funk, and disco, baby.
Funky-licious.
There's always a party at the Funky Roller Ring.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Groovin' Thursday, featuring rap, hip-hop, soul, and funk music. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and our apologies for the connection problems on Ustream. I don't know what's going on with them. We've been using them for quite a bit and haven't changed anything from yesterday, so I don't know what's going on. But we do also have our new live audio stream that you can get by going to the link that we've got posted in the chat room.
Sprint voice.
And so you can check that out, and you can connect to us live. We already got a few listeners listening out on tunein.com, so that's very cool as well. Now, normally we'd be talking to Bago Schwago at this time, and I think he may be trying to call in, or may have tried to call me. I didn't have a tune uploaded, so I wasn't sure what to do for today, so I've decided to go with something local from our friends J Mac and Big Dub. They performed...
Hello?
Hello, do we have Bago Schwago?
Hello?
Hello, this is Radical Russ. This is Russ. Who is this?
Hey, this is Finn. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, Finn. Yeah, our segment's coming up in just about 7 minutes. We'll call you then, okay?
Okay, excellent. That's what I was just checking to make sure that we had, good communications and that you were going to call me. So I'm sitting here waiting.
All right, we'll be in touch in about 7 minutes. Thanks, man. Well, there, we're doing it live. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go now to our Groovin' Thursday Daily Toker Tune. It's J Mac and Big Dub. They did the fundraiser for the Southern Oregon 4 at Plou's Brews. They're big fans, big supporters of the movement. Here's their tune, which, we need another tune with this title. It's Mary Jane.
Meet me at the cafe. to dig and take a ride. I'ma be there all day, smoking on something nice. I'm tired of stressing, my body's aching. I wish this pain would go away. My addiction is my prescription, and I need it every day. Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, need it every day. Oh yeah, doctor, here's the news. I got a bad case of putting weed in my food, and I smoke every night before the 6 o'clock news. And at least 2 months before I put on my shoes, I put butter on my purple haze pancakes. I got a little tincture for my pains and aches, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and switch up the date. So if you find yourself around my way, you can understand. When you get to think I'm take a ride, I'ma be there all day, smoking on something nice. I'm tired of stressing, my body's aching. I wish this pain would go away. My addiction is my prescription, and I need it every day. Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, need it every day.
Here I go, out the door, another chronic episode. Trying to squeeze these 28 hours into 24 in the liquor store. No, I'm sliding by the cafe. They keep that green up in them jars every single day, man. Blowing with Orlando, smoking big with Don Juan. They say done handed me that gravity bomb. He said, follow the smoke, don't talk. Get it anyway, we get it blown away.
When you get to think I'm take a ride, I'ma be there all day, smoking on something nice. I'm tired of stressing, my body's aching. I wish this pain would go away. My addiction is my prescription, and I need it every day. Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, need it every day. I wish this pain would go away. My addiction is my prescription, and I need it every day. Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, need it every day. Everybody fire it up.
John Bon Jovi, and I've been given a script to talk to you about drugs, rock and roll, having fun, a good time, and all that good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, drugs is not a part of my everyday routine. It's not everyday fun. It's not good for you. All right, so listen, think twice before you do drugs, because there ain't no winners out there doing it.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And if you're one of the 26 million Americans who smoked marijuana last year, you need to get involved in the drive to legalize marijuana. We need your help to stop the senseless arrest of more than 800,000 Americans each year on marijuana charges. Together, we can end marijuana prohibition and stop the arrests of marijuana smokers. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
One of the most disturbing elements of the Prohibition War is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows the futility of prohibition and reaches out to educate the community and current law enforcement. Today, the Russ Belville Show visits with another speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition with one clear message. Cops say legalize drugs.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Half past, and we are joined by our eager guest, Finn Seelander, who's joining us from New Mexico. Nice to talk to you, Finn. How you doing?
Good, Russ. I just want to say it's a real pleasure to be on your show. It's a real honor.
Well, thank you.
I really look forward. To, I guess, the questions and answers, or what I can say. So.
Well, I thank you for being able to speak to a DEA official without me going to jail. So this is a first in my life. I like that.
Well, I'll be the first to say I am retired.
Yes, so glad to hear that. You know, we've got your picture up on our web screen. Unfortunately, a lot of people are having trouble connecting to it today. But you bear somewhat of a resemblance to the most fascinating man in the world, I just wanted to mention.
And who would that be?
The Dos Equis spokesman on the commercials. I
love it.
You're looking good, my man. All right, so
well, I do drink Dos Equis.
That's not a bad beer, I'd say. All right, so we're talking to Finn Seelander. He's with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He's a retired DEA special agent. But before that, I see in your bio here, you know, Pensacola Police Department, U.S. Navy. Of all of your work in law enforcement, at what point did you reach this decision that the drug war wasn't working? Did you have to get into the DEA before that finally came to your mind?
Well, it was really during DEA, I guess you could say, there were number of cases that I worked, and it got me thinking. Once I retired in 2008, I actually ended up I did a tour in Afghanistan, or a tour in Iraq, and 2 tours in Afghanistan. When I went to Iraq in 2009, I ran into a individual that was a member of LEAP. I met him when I went through Ali Salim, which is where everybody pretty much flies through if you go in country to Iraq. And we became quick friends real quick. He was a former Border Patrol agent. And we were just talking, and he basically said he was in LEAP and told me everything about it. And then it just really, really got me thinking. And I said, well, you know what, I can use my experiences and hopefully end the prohibition on drugs. It is, for law enforcement, it is one of the worst things, I say, happening, because when you have prohibition, basically what happens is you let the cartels and organized crime, the street dealers, they control the price of drugs. And they also control, when I say our kids, because the way they operate, they will even use underage kids because they know they get less of a, prison term sentences. So they'll use young kids to sling the drugs on the street. And when you look at everything, and when everything is said and done, it's about the money. And we are talking, I would say conservatively, would be $400 to $500 billion a year that moves through the U.S. economy on illicit drugs.
You know, I'm glad you bring up that economic angle on that, because I see in your background you have experience in the money laundering investigations, RICO, corruption investigations, all these cartel type of activities. And, you know, a lot of focus is given on how much money they make, but boy, there's a lot of money that law enforcement and banks make on this drug trade as well. Can you speak to that?
Oh, absolutely. When you talk about money laundering, I mean, that is the lifeblood of the cartels. They move the drugs, but they've got to do something with that money to make it legitimate. And so it is huge money for the banks themselves. It is just absolutely, you know, phenomenal if we get on to, you know, like certain banks that may be, you know, money laundering. What has happened is a lot of times banks, you know, you take them down. Another bank offshore will open up, and they are now, you know, used to it was the Caribbean was really big with various banks there. Switzerland's always had, you know, money laundering, I'd say problems because of their bank secrecy laws and stuff. But banks have even opened up in the South Pacific. You know, various countries, and if you will, you know, off the coast of Australia, the various islands. Banks have opened up, you know, but it's all, the money is just absolutely phenomenal. And that's the reason they do it. And, you know, as far as danger to law enforcement, I read something the other day that I think is very interesting. Back in the 60s, the closure rate for homicide was about 91, 92%. This was in the early 60s. And the national average was, you know, like I say, 91, 92%. Today, the closure rate nationally for homicide is approximately 61%. And part of it is, you know, police departments, police officers, agents, they are so busy, you know, doing, if you will, the war on drugs that they don't have time to really do true police work.
Yeah, we get that from a lot of the LEAP speakers who talk about how this is such a diversion away from the real crimes that we want to have our police officers solve. Diane Goldstein often talks about returning to being peace officers instead of police officers. I'm wondering how much of this money that's involved in it, though, and, you know, maybe it's different from different departments, but how much of the money that's involved in the asset forfeitures and the drug war grants that these, you know, increasingly small town police departments get that keeps them addicted to this war on drugs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have HIDAs, which is high intensity drug trafficking areas. And if an area qualifies for that, you know, they get all kinds of government funds. And, you know, you've got departments where, you know, these little cities where they may have, you know, the population may be 1,000 people. You have a small police department and they've got, you know, a drug problem. They get huge amounts of money to buy basically military gear, you know, assault vehicles, military weapons, you know, for this, you know, war on drugs. You know, it's absolutely, it's asinine.
Yeah.
We're losing. Matter of fact, you can just look at the numbers. You go on the DEA website, and from 2005 to 2012, so you've got a 7-year period, the site actually says that DEA has seized $21.5 billion in revenue through the seizure of both assets and drugs. So in that 7-year period, that's the total amount that they have seized. $21.5 billion. Well, let's just be real conservative here. You know, I won't go with Brian Fremantle, who wrote the book The Fix. He claims, and this was back in the 80s, And he claims it was about 500 billion at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be conservative and just drop it down to 400 billion. Take 400 billion a year, multiply that times the 7 years, and you get $2.8 trillion. And then what's seized of that is 21.5 billion. I mean, it's just a tiny bit. It's absolutely,
it's like spending dollars to pick up dimes is what it is. You're spending dollars to pick up dimes. It makes no economic sense whatsoever, and yet we continue to do it. So as we breach legalization in 2 states now, and we're beginning to get this groundswell of support for it, one of the tactics I've seen out here in the state of Oregon, at least, is in writing the legalization initiatives, they earmark some percentage of the tax proceeds to go straight to law enforcement. Do you think that it's going to take bribing law enforcement with marijuana tax money to get them at least to not oppose us?
Well, that's, again, as they say, money talks and BS walks.
Uh-huh.
We have to, first of all, regulate it, and you have to tax it, okay? But we also, with that tax money, when I say speak for LEAP, we're talking about not just marijuana. We're talking about other drugs also, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We have to do something, when I say similar to what possibly Portugal did. Portugal, basically, has a program where if you are an addict, with cocaine, heroin, you're treated as an addict. And you can get your fix, but, part of it is you want to, it is a medical issue, so to say. And until we start treating, when I say the overall drug issue, not just marijuana, we concentrate on, we say, oh, well, marijuana, that's the one drug that's getting close to being legalized and all, but, when all is said and done, and it doesn't matter what the states do, because it's still illegal federally. And you've got people, let's take Colorado. You've got, thousands and thousands of federal jobs. You got Fort Collins, you got, Boulder, Boulder, Colorado. You got, a lot of military bases in Colorado. A lot of government employees. And even if the state says you can use user amounts, use marijuana, if you get popped federally, you're going to get fired, possibly could even go to jail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so unless we attack it from the, federal side of things and actually get it rescheduled, marijuana is going to have to be taken off, Schedule 1. Right now it's Schedule 1. And unless we do that, you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah. You bring up the federal illegality, and that leads me to a question from our chat room. Our friend Dreamweaver out there wants to know we know what the courts have decided, but do you personally think the drug war is constitutional?
Absolutely not. I do not.
Excellent. Excellent answer. And that's a good time for us to just wrap up this segment here on our Cops Say Legalize Drugs. We've been speaking with Finn Seelander. He's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he's one of a number of fantastic speakers from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. You can get them to come to your event, your Kiwanis Club, your Rotarians, whatever it is you might be doing, and get some real answers on the war on drugs from the guys who are fighting it on the front lines. Finn, anything else you'd like to tell our audience before we bid you adieu? Got any contact information or websites?
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely encourage everyone out there to go onto the LEAP website, which is just LEAP, LEAP.cc, and read about what we're about. Even active law enforcement officers, we will be there as a support group. As far as communities go, LEAP will be glad to come in, speak to various groups, explain, why we have this position as far as legalizing drugs and getting, basically, if you will, the organized crime, the cartels out of it, and making, I say, from the insane. And I would like to say this: what is the definition of insanity? And it's doing the same thing consistently and then expecting a different result.
Well said, my man. Finn Seelander from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Thanks for joining us. We're going to do one of the same things we always do, and that is take a break before we get to the Radical Rant. Hope you join us. Bacon Dan just stepped into the studio. We got plenty to rant about, and then we'll take it into Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. I got a lot of stories bookmarked for today, so we got plenty to say. It's Marijuana Radio right here on
We'll be
420
right back
Radio.
after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Greatest threats to liberty has been the government taking people's liberty for things that people are in favor of. The Pew Research Group shows that 52% of Americans think marijuana should not be illegal. And yet there are people in jail, and your Justice Departments continue to put people in jail for sale and use on occasion of marijuana. That's something the American public has finally caught up with. It was a cultural lag, and it's been an injustice for 40 years in this country to take people's liberty for something that was similar to alcohol. You have continued what is allowing the Mexican cartels power, and the power to make money, ruin Mexico, hurt our country by having a prohibition in the late 20th and 21st century. We saw it didn't work in this country in the 20s. We remedied it. This is the time to remedy this prohibition. And I would hope you would do.
This is Brian the Red, and you're listening to 420radio.org. Get a little fiery.
Hey, sit back, relax, and have a puff or two. 'Cause all we really trying to do is get high with you. That's just how we do. Sit back, relax, and have a puff or two. 'Cause all we really trying to do is get high with you. That's just how we do.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Today I'm taking a look at a couple of politicians who I think are talking out both sides of their neck when it comes to marijuana. We'll start domestically with Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, the darling of the libertarian set. A lot of young folks like the whole Rand Paul revolution. Let's not have any government. We'll all be free. Everyone can do as they choose so long as they don't harm others. We don't need a big government, and it'll work just fine because it's never existed anywhere in human history. But anyway, don't want to get in a big libertarian rant right now. The main point I wanted to make had to do with Rand Paul making his way to Nevada. And by the way, it's Nevada. It's not Nevada. It's Nevada. So making his way to Nevada, he reiterated his personal opposition to marijuana use. This is reported by U.S. News. He says, quote, "I personally think that marijuana use is not healthy." This is him talking to the Las Vegas Sun. "People that use it chronically have a loss of IQ and a loss of ambition. But at the same time, states have the right to make these decisions." End quote. This is that I want to have it both ways type of Republican, right? They want to attract the libertarians that are, let's not have the big government wasting money on pot smokers. But he also wants to court those conservative Christian types, those folks on the right that have a big moral problem with marijuana smoking. Wants to have it both ways. Oh, it's okay if states decide to allow the lazy, stupid, chronically unemployed stoners to smoke their wacky tobacco That's a state's decision. And that kind of stand kind of, makes me more angry than the people who are just against it. Just the people that have their own moral problem with it. That's cool. But this kind of stand where you're trying to court the vote of people that are pro-marijuana like me, people that would support a libertarian look at our drug laws and allowing people to do as they choose so long as they don't harm others. But at the same time, castigating those very people whose votes you're trying to support, trying to court in order to court other people's votes, that just seems kind of slimy to me. And I just wanted to call him out on this because this isn't the first time Rand Paul has been slandering marijuana smokers. Let's see. Back in June 4th at the Hoover Institution, he said, quote, "I don't really believe in prison sentences for these minor nonviolent drug offenses, but I'm not willing to go all the way to say it's a good idea either. I think people who use marijuana all the time lose IQ points. I think they lose their drive to show up for work." End quote. And this is just such an affront to so many of my friends who work so hard in so many jobs, who are pot smokers, who put the food on the table, or as George W. Bush used to say, put the food on their family, pay the bills, are good, productive members of society who get discriminated against and have to be usually better workers at work to avoid the scrutiny of, oh, he's a pothead, he's going to be, lazy or whatever. Usually better workers being discriminated against for making a safer choice. It's just unfair. Back on April 10th, Rand Paul was at Howard University and he said this, quote, "I think if you use it too much, you will lose IQ points. I think if you use it too much, you won't show up for class. I think you'll eat too many Doritos. I will do everything I can to keep nonviolent criminals out of jail. As long as they're buying the Doritos. If they're not stealing the Doritos, then they're okay, right? All right. And won't show up for class." How many people have gotten their college degrees and smoked pot all the way through it? It's not an indicator that you're not going to show up to class. In fact, if anything, drinking is what got me flunked out of Boise State University. I'd never even smoked a joint, but a whole lot of Schaefer Lights got me by the pool and not in the classroom. Back in May, Rand Paul told the Washington Post, quote, "I'm not advocating for everyone to go out and run around with no clothes on and smoke pot. I'm not a libertarian. I'm a libertarian Republican. I'm a constitutional conservative." Rand, you say that like it's a bad thing. Bunch of people run around with no clothes on smoking pot. We call that Portland. But it's, that's the way the Rand Paul's looking at this. Just remember, folks, if you want to support his policies, great. You want to support him for his politics, but just understand what he thinks of you as a pot smoker. And this constant drumbeat of you're going to lose IQ points. You're going to lose IQ points. You're going to lose IQ points. Besides the fact it's not true. 2 words, Carl Sagan. It's not true. But aside from that, so what? Is there a rule that we have to have our maximum possible IQ points? What is this, Dungeons and Dragons? We're going to lose a spell cast if we don't have a high enough IQ? What the hell's going on here? It's my IQ points. Hey, I started off with a whole lot of them. Maybe I can afford to shave off a few. That's everyone's right to decide. Who says that we have to have a certain IQ? It's ridiculous. All right, so there's a little vitriol for Rand Paul, but the real subject of today's rant, it's inspired to me by Herb Thrasher, who had kind of written a Facebook post about this, talking about how the guys, would talk trash on a sports team, but then they get popular, they jump on the bandwagon, that kind of bandwagoneering. And it was in reference to former President Vicente Fox, president of Mexico from 2000 to 2006. Of course, the big headlines lately is how he's launching this partnership with pot advocates. He met with Stephen D'Angelo from the Harborside Health Center. He met with Shively, the Jamie Shively guy from Microsoft. And these are some of the things that he said. He's part of this Diego Pellicer, I think is the name of the company they've put together, tried to be a multi-million-dollar big marijuana. This is what Vicente Fox said the other day, quote, "The cost of the war is becoming unbearable. Each day, 40 young people are killed in Mexico due to drug-related violence." Now the story, this is from Huffington Post, goes on to say, though he fought drug cartels with force during his presidency, in the years since he left office, Fox has advocated for legalization as the best antidote to violence. More than 70,000 people are estimated to have been killed since Fox's successor, Felipe Calderón, launched a large-scale offensive against the Mexican drug trafficking organizations. Fox also said, quote, We cannot afford more blood and loss of more young people. We must get out of the trap that we are in, end quote. Now, I'm not going to go too far against Fox as far as his presidency from 2000-2006, doing all his drug war fighting that he did back then, and now having a change of tune as legalization comes around, because I'm happy he has a change of tune. We want the former drug warriors to see the error of their ways, even though you can maybe see a little hypocrisy in it. At least they're hypocritical for the right side. Right? It's like Bob Barr when he was with the Georgia congressman from Georgia, shooting down medical marijuana in D.C., then gets out of D.C. and becomes a lobbyist for MPP. You know, all right, it seems a little, well, whatever it is, it's okay as long as he's on our side, right? But I did want to address some points with respect to Vicente Fox, just to give you an idea what he's jumping from. The drug war stuff, maybe we can look aside at that. I mean, it's the law. He has to fight this stuff. But going back to 2001, because you know me, I look shit up. 2001, this was a statement from, this is out in the News Bank, March 30th, 2001. U.S. drug enforcement officials said yesterday they are encouraged by Mexican President Vicente Fox's promise to make drugs and corruption his top priorities. DEA Chief Donnie Marshall told a House subcommittee that while Fox has shown that Fox has shown every indication he intends to work with U.S. authorities. But, that's kind of, we're allies, right? Mexico and the United States are allies. Both have come in with this anti-drug war. That's 2001. He's coming into office. You can kind of maybe forgive a little, like, okay, you got to come into office, work with the, the big country to the north. You do want to fight drugs. I mean, you don't want violence in your streets and such. Maybe you can forgive that in 2001. Let's fast forward to 2006. This is at the end of Vicente Fox's term. He's walking out the door, folks. May 2nd, 2006, Fox News. Mexican President Vicente Fox will sign into law a measure that decriminalizes the possession of small amounts of drugs, including marijuana, cocaine, and heroin, his spokesman said Tuesday. Spokesman Ruben Aguilar defended the law, which was approved Friday by Mexico's Senate, despite criticism by some in the United States that it could increase casual drug use. Aguilar said, quote, "The president is going to sign this law," who called the legislation, quote, "a better tool that allows better action and better coordination in the fight against drug dealing. The government believes this law represents progress because it established the minimum quantities that a citizen can carry for personal use," end quote. Under the new law, consumers may possess up to 25 milligrams of heroin, 5 grams of marijuana, about a fifth of an ounce, or half gram of cocaine, the equivalent of about 4 lines. The law also establishes quantities for other drugs such as LSD, MDA, MDMA, and amphetamines. May 2nd, 2006, Fox is set to sign decriminalization into law into Mexico. May 6, 2006, 4 days later, drug bill veto sparks Mexico City marijuana smoke-in. The issue of drug decriminalization split Mexican politics in strange ways after President Vicente Fox refused to sign a bill that would have eliminated criminal penalties for possessions of small amounts of drugs. About 500 protesters held a marijuana smoke-in in Mexico City, and some members of Congress accused Fox of yielding to U.S. pressure to veto the bill. Possession of marijuana is currently a crime, punishable by 10 to 16 months in prison. So Vicente Fox had the chance when he was walking out the door, when he was leaving office, to sign a bill to decriminalize up to just 5 grams, folks. 4 joints at best. 3 if you roll them like Brian over here. But a small amount, user amount of marijuana, had the chance to sign that into law in 2006. How many marijuana smokers in Mexico would that have kept out of 10 to 16 months in a Mexican prison? Had the chance to sign it. 4 days of pressure later, calls from the U.S., threats, who knows what it was. He bows down to U.S. pressure, kisses Uncle Sam's ass, and continues the criminalization of marijuana for personal use in Mexico. So forgive me just a little bit, Vicente Fox, when I see you jumping on the Pacific Northwest marijuana legalization bandwagon when you weren't brave enough to decriminalize 5 grams in your own country. And that's what I have to say about that. That's all the time we got for hour 1 here. Going on to Toker Talk Radio in Hour 2, where I'll try to put all my words in the right order. Having a weird day today, folks, but it's a good one. We're headed to the 710 Cup in Denver, Colorado. We are looking for women in the industry, women who want to get involved. We're going to do a special working with a reporter from Ladybud magazine, the great Diane Fornbacher out there putting out a great magazine, Ladybud, and we're going to get you some coverage from the women's side of dad culture. For Brian the Red and Bacon Dan, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you